big breaking news coming in. Sources have told NDTV that the Women's Reservation Bill has got the Cabinet's nod. In the big Cabinet meeting this evening, the Women's Reservation Bill was cleared, was ratified, and now it is likely to be introduced by the government, reintroduced in fact, in Parliament by the government. First on NDTV, the big breaking news that the Women's Reservation Bill has been cleared by the Cabinet. There was a lot of buzz that the Women's Reservation Bill could be cleared by the Cabinet, but now sources have confirmed to NDTV that the Cabinet has given its nod to the Women's Reservation Bill, and it's likely to be reintroduced in Lok Sabha in the special session. This, of course, as the Prime Minister also hinted at the fact that there will be historic decisions that will be taken in the special session of Parliament. Sunil Prabhu is now joining us live on the phone line. Sunil has this big breaking news. He is in fact live with us on the broadcast. Sunil, you have this big scoop on the Cabinet meet, and the Women's Reservation Bill has been cleared by the Cabinet, and now it's likely to be reintroduced in Parliament. Of course, it's been pending in Lok Sabha for the past 13 years. Truly historic.
Absolutely. It's truly a historic day. The Cabinet giving that go-ahead for the Women's Reservation Bill. A lot of water has flown since this Cabinet decision of giving a go-ahead. What has happened, as you rightly said, it's taken 13 years from the Rajya Sabha to come to the Lok Sabha. But this is a bill which requires bipartisan support. And what the government has been able to do, and if you see in the all-party meeting, is get bipartisan support for the Women's Reservation Bill, with most political parties supporting the idea of Women's Reservation, 33% as it is in its present form. It's in that backdrop that the Cabinet has given the go-ahead for a person like me who has covered Parliament since 1996. I can never forget that moment of women MPs when it was first introduced. Geeta Mukherjee, the CPI MP at that time, being the forefront of that movement. And many people, it's taken many decades for this bill now to be finally see its trajectory in what will be one of the last phases. Once it's cleared from the Lok Sabha, please remember there's a role, it has to be passed by at least 50% of the state assemblies, and only then can the president sign off before it can be made an act. The last precedent of something like this being done cleared by over 50% of the state assemblies was the National Judicial Appointments Commission, which was passed in 2014, later struck down by the Supreme Court. And it's in that context we'll have to wait and see the finer details of the bill, because there have been other political parties who have been demanding quota within quota for women's reservation. And most importantly, when members of Parliament passed this bill in the Lok Sabha, it's virtually some caution it and say as really their own death warrant. It is in that backdrop that this has to be seen in that perspective, that many members of Parliament might not come back to Parliament because their seats might get reserved, and that's been always the biggest decision. But it's a big political move by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to get that bipartisan support, to take everybody along within this Cabinet, and more importantly, to do this game-changing bill ahead of Lok Sabha as well as state assembly elections, to be seen as the messiah of women in terms of passing this bill. As I said, it's been a long trajectory. It started off with the 73rd Amendment by Rajiv Gandhi when he did Panchayati Raj Amendment, and then at that stage, women were given reservation. It's been a long way since then, but truly a very, very historic step by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his cabinet. They need to be complimented, and this is something that will definitely have bipartisan support. Most political parties have supported Women's Reservation Bill. They've been waiting for this, they've been urging for this, and finally the cabinet giving the go-ahead.
Absolutely, Sunil. Thanks so much for joining us with all those details. Sunil Prabhu with that big breaking story on NDTV. So, of course, the Cabinet has cleared the Women's Reservation Bill, likely to be introduced in Parliament soon. Truly a historic move, and as Sunil said, perhaps a game-changing one by the Prime Minister. Brinda Adige, a women's rights activist, is with us on the phone line. Ma'am, your first reaction, truly historic, something that has been an issue of that concerns women across party lines. We have seen how women from across party lines have come together to fight for the Women's Reservation Bill. Your first reaction to the fact that the Cabinet has cleared the Women's Reservation Bill, so of course a welcome step there.
You're absolutely right. Welcome. Fantastic that a bill that has taken decades to be passed by several parties has today got a nod. And like you mentioned, it is historic. Landmark, historic. And I think this is something that's not only going to make every woman contestant happy, but I think women voters will also be happy. And it really puts India right again on the top of the map, because this is a bill that was waiting for a very, very long time in the Parliament. And I'm so happy, like thousands of other women in India, that this bill is now going to become a reality.